So we'll move on to describing the advisory committee.
Thanks, Jessica, and hi everyone. Good to be here. As Jessica said, Ruth and I come from the Center for Community-Based Research, CCBR. We're located in Waterloo. We do work across Canada, including in Peel region. We have worked before, and we're excited to be a part of this project and invited in to help facilitate the process. And one of the principles in implementing a community-based approach is to make sure that the project is guided by community stakeholders. And in fact, we often make the distinction between the doers of a project, the project team, which Jessica just talked about on the previous slide, and the guiders of the project. So this advisory committee. Before the project team, the doers do anything, they're guided by this advisory committee. So we will have this advisory committee to make sure that the different stakeholder perspectives are actively involved in the project, with a role of guiding the design and implementation of the project. And forming this group is the first step that we want to do. In a moment, we'll ask you to help us set the criteria for who should be on this committee, but we know for starters that they need to think collectively, being invested in the collective newcomer settlement agenda of Peel. And we know that we want diversity of perspectives around the table. And beyond that, we'll let you guide us in an exercise that we'll do shortly. In terms of commitment, we're envisioning quarterly meetings. And you can see there the potential first meeting dates to get the ball rolling towards the end of February. And after we'll get your direction about more specific selection criteria, we'll open up an application process until February 3rd, and then we'll select those who best fit that criteria. And at the end of the meeting today, we'll give you more specifics about the application process. So really that is the overview, the information that we wanted to provide today. And Afad has started us off with questions. Maybe other people have questions or clarifications, and we can have an open discussion here before we move into some more exercises to get your feedback on a few things.
So I see Karen's hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'm just checking when we're talking about settlement services and planning and things like that, does that include the language services components, the supports for across Ontario that are currently funded by the regional offices? There's some complexities in that, the CLARS model with the MLTSD funding and language assessment pieces, the HEARTS database, all of that kind of thing. Does it include those things as well as the core settlement services, newcomer services?
Since this is an IRCC funded project, and I look to Stephanie to chime in as well if she can, I think this will encompass those services that are IRCC funded, and we can consider that and be cognizant that there are other sources of funding that feed into that as well. Stephanie, do you have anything to add there?
So I don't want to say too much because I don't want to guide any of the thinking, but it could. I'll just say that, right? It's really up to the community to decide what's included and what's not. But from the outset, we say it would include everything, and language would be part of the core settlement services for IRCC.
Okay. Varsha.
Thanks, Jessica. Just a couple of observation points and one clarifying question. I think we are working on developing a model that would work well for our region and for our community. And that's a tremendous way to go forward because we best know what our local needs are. And therefore we can respond to our local challenges appropriately as a collective. As long as we keep our own personal bias and our own preferences and our individual agendas aside and work towards the benefit of the community and the newcomers, I think we will get where we need to go with this. So kudos PNSG. I think, Cassandra, I recall when the draft was being created. So excellent outcome in terms of where we are headed as a group. The other piece is, I think, yes, all settlement components of the work needs to be considered. Yes, they are IRCC funded, but there are distinct and definite parameters that the funder puts on each of those programs. So Karen, to your observation, would language programs be incorporated? I think ideally, as a community, we want to consider all settlement services and not just the mainstream settlement services. There are also support services that we need to account for. You know, newcomers do not just go for language, or newcomers do not just go for an employment service. They go for health and education, and they go for many more services in the community. And how are we weaving that component in our conversation as we develop this model is a critical part of our work. And my clarifying question is, I think our local stats data will give us some demographic information, but IRCC also has landing data. And are we going to critically analyze both of those data sets to move where we need to go with, you know, what is the real picture in Peel?
Great question. Would you like me to take this one?
Whoever wants to.
I'm watching Jessica's face to make sure she's okay. Yeah, so absolutely, we do need to analyze local data. Right now, we've done a data buy through the Western Data Center, the longitudinal immigrant database, and I believe somewhat overlaid with the international landing files that Varsha's mentioning. This was for a previous project, and it was an IRCC funded data buy. And so we have been delayed in hearing back from StatScan due to the pandemic. So we actually don't quite know what we're going to get yet, but we're really hoping that we get to the core of some of this more recent data. And then as someone mentioned in the chat, the census is also going to roll out, though towards the end of the research phase of this project. So we hope that we're going to be able to incorporate that new fresh data and pull from the tax filer files for Peel, but that'll take time and it might kind of fall right after the research phase. So let's hope. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Cassandra. And kudos again to you to pull the proposal together and working with partners such as Varsha and others.